Hello and welcome. Hope everyone is all good. I am absolutely fine. It's a bit blustery today. You catch me between rainstorms. Yeah, just thought we'd have a little check-in, see how it's all going, a quick whip round the garden, see what's good and what's bad, and go from there. So since the last time, I've completed 3 tasks, which is I've put the hydrangea samanii in. We're going to have a look at that, although I suppose it is just a plant in the ground. It's over there behind the fatsia on the left, but we're going to check he's not dead because I haven't looked at him for 2 weeks. You may just be able to see I've completed the wiring on the bottom half of the fence, which will enable me now to finish off the trellis coming around from the left there that you can see. So that's a good one, ticked off the list. And then I've also, off of the Lonicera hildebrandiana, the giant Burmese honeysuckle there climbing up the post, I've taken some cuttings off of that, but we'll get to that when we get to it. Let's start over in this corner where the bad is. So a good thing that happened is, first cutting I've ever taken in my life was this monstera, the cheese plant. That seems to be surviving. It's sent out another leaf already, and you can see another one's coming up, so that's all right. He'll probably come in over winter if it gets too cold. The experiment with the Asplenium nidus, which is the bird's nest fern, hasn't gone very well. I think that's the wind doing it to that, and possibly it's getting a bit of sun. So what I might do is take that one inside for the winter, because I'm going to redo all this corner, and then let it recover, and then next year I might shove it right down in that corner over there, which is nice and sheltered, and I need to fill the gap from where I chopped the fatsia that died off. So yeah, but other than that, this little section here seems to be going okay. The traculospermum is finally growing, but I think all the new leaves are getting eaten off it. If we come this side of it, you can just see it's sort of all bare stalks. So yeah, either that or it's getting ravaged by the wind. But either way, I'll let that climb and do whatever it's going to do, and if I see them overhanging, I'll fold them back in and that. But some of it has climbed right up to the top of the trellis there, and that's climbing up in the corner as well, so that's pretty good. Other than that, these ferns are all doing okay down here. I should really move this little polysticum out the way, because it does look quite nice, these ones. We'll see a better version of this in a second, but I quite like them and feel like it could do with a little bit more, you know, people being able to see it basically. So moving on over, the Fatceda has bounced back and still growing. I need to tuck that in nicely and just spread it out a little bit, but I'll do that once I've done that bit of trellis on the right. I did the wind or a cat or something, but anyway, something snapped off a piece, so I've actually used that as a cutting, so we'll see if that works as well. Other than that, going round here, it all looks rather lush and vibrant. You might not notice, but I've amended this post. The 2 aspleniums which are at the top really weren't doing too well, probably because of the amount of sun they were getting, so I've taken them off and put them in the bed out the front. The bottom 2 actually doing really well, and then that Nephrolopis cordifolia, I've just moved it up about a foot to get it out the way of that Cyathea frond that's come out. This is doing really well. You can see it's actually grown into 2 crowns there, so I've got another one of them. So happy with them. They've been the star of the year, Nephrolopis cordifolia. You'll see the other ones in a minute, absolute beasts. So if we start off with this one here, this was another one of them polysticum congestion ferns, so it looks quite nice, that one dead in the center. This one took a bit of a dig. I think the cat decided to dig it up when I first put it in, but it's coming back strong, so hopefully, yeah, that will go on, and we'll get some you know, that's a lot better place, so I can move these stones once it grows. Another one we haven't really checked in on for a while is the maidenhair fern down there, nice and wet as you can see. That is the Adiantum vestunum. It's supposed to be one of the hardiest, so we'll see how that does. The idea of that is that it covers everything and cascades down the little bank we got there, but we'll see if it actually happens or not. Moving on, you can see how grand this Cyathea looks. These fronds are massive. I do love these things. The next one has only just decided to start coming out, so it says it's fast growing. it's not particularly fast growing. I reckon about 6 to 8 weeks for one of these fronds to fully unfurl. But it could be that it's only been in the ground for 4 or 5 months. So if it settles and survives the winter, it might up itself next year, but we won't know until next year. Other than that, we've got the small Dixonia down there. This big Dixonia, or I say big Dixonia, bigger than that one down there, but he's doing all right. He's not dead, so that's all we can ask for sometimes. Fatsia's doing well, no scale bug on that. If we have a little look down here, you can see, hopefully, that's where I've popped the Hydrangea Samanii in, so I'll leave that for a few weeks to get going, and then I'll tie it into the wiring you can see I've put around. Other than that, this Cyathea is doing okay. Hopefully it will survive winter. These are still getting eaten up, but the rate of this thing getting eaten and the amount of ants on it is definitely slowed down. So yeah, as you can see, I haven't gone DEFCON 1 on it and totally stripped it all. I'll just leave it and see what happens, I think. So I really want the predators to come in and start eating them, and if they're not there, they won't attract them, and I'll just get the same problem next year. Other than that, not too much going on around here. You can see it all looks quite luscious. This Cyathea is going some again still, so we're okay. The Settiferum Herrenhausen sending out another flush, so pretty happy with that. Schefflera Tyrrheniana going strong, not quite as glossy as it should be, but you can see those new leaves that have come up sort of in the last month there, so he seems to be going all right. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it. The Blechnum Chilense there, doing really well. This thing can size up. This thing could get metre long fronds on it, so yeah, I look forward to that when the time comes, but for now he's doing a good job there. Tetrapanax doing really well. These ferns that are to the left of it against the fence, they're all going to come out because they're all deciduous ferns. There's an ostrich fern there we can just see to the left, sort of 7 o'clock area, and then under that big dark leaf at the back left hand side is a lady fern, and then sort of at 12 o'clock from our view is a royal fern, but I'll wait for them to go off their brown colour, and then I'll dig them out, and that's where a Clematis almandii will go. So yeah, they're doing okay. Other than that, if we come under it, what I like about this now is that it's starting to raise the canopy above ground level, because I haven't seen any of this all year because the Tetrapanax leaves have been covering it. So now we can just see these other ferns that are in here. The Lophosauria, which got frosted back, is doing okay. He's bounced back. The fronds aren't as big as they were last year, but it did have a Tetrapanax leaf on it for a few months. That only went about a month ago, so hopefully that'll start bouncing back. The only thing I was thinking around here, I mean, 2 people have now said about the Tetrapanax is going to take over this area, and about putting the Wollemi pine in there, where it is when the time comes next year and I dig all this out for a patio. Yeah, I can sort of see what they're saying, but half of me is sort of thinking if I shove it in there then it can look after itself. But yeah, I don't know. I'll have to mull on it and see. I've got 9 months or 6 months, whatever it is, until I put that one in anyway, so plenty of time to think. I've actually been looking into more of the family of these pines, which is the same as the monkey puzzle in the Norfolk Island pine, so I'm looking to actually get both of those, put them in pots and sort of see what happens. So yeah, it's something I'm mulling over on that one, but otherwise it looks pretty good, that Tetrapanax, for the fact that I nearly killed it twice. So yeah, happy with that. Moving on to the middle bed, this is still a conundrum to me what I'm going to do with it long term. I went way too trigger happy on cutting out the bottom leaves, as you can see, because it's opened it all up. It was really nice and bushy before, but yeah, I got excited one day. What can you do? Other than that, in here, the only one doing really well is this small Kiliensis tomentosa. The sword fern there on the right is surviving, I would say. It's not particularly thriving in there, so he may need to be moved. And in my experience, the polysticum ferns definitely need more shade than light, whereas the Diopteris ferns will take a bit more sun, depending on obviously the variety of them. But you know, other than that, I'm pretty happy. The gingers haven't flowered. I don't think we've had enough sun for that here, because it's not in full sun, that, because the banana leaves take out the midday sun from them, so maybe that's it. But yeah, we'll see what happens next year. I'm in no rush to sort of tear that up, but it will be all coming out at some point. If we come over to here, canna's still flowering, as you can see there, which is quite nice. That canna will be coming out though, and then what I'll do is I'll put a climber against the fence to come up and across the waterfall this way, because as much as my hope was that the Lonicera was going to climb up all over the pergola halfway round the garden this way, and I have loads of spare for it, I'm not sure that's going to happen. So I might need to have a little backup for it over here, in which case a honeysuckle would do quite well, because there's a couple of evergreen honeysuckles that would go into there. In here, as always, the Diopteris atrata doesn't like the full sun. You can see how rough that looks, bearing in mind it's sheltered in there. And if we come across to this one that isn't sheltered but only in part sun, that one looks a lot better. So yeah, we'll move that atrata out the way. Otherwise, I'm pretty happy with the way all these have gone. This Lophosauria is doing really well, and you can just see, hopefully, if the wind will come at the right time. No, but can you just see the blue flash underneath there? So they do look nice, these Lophosaurus, and they're pretty hardy as well. They're just really hard to get hold of. So yeah, took some cuttings off this Lonicera. I'm not from a gardening background, so I had no idea what the different types of cuttings were. So I did about 2 days of reading up and watching videos on it. Was still none the wiser after, so I just decided to take 3 different types of cuttings from 3 different areas, and then I've put them all in 3 pots in the same windowsill. I was going to do it in the root powder, the root hormone, but I lost the little tub I had, so that was clever of me, because I didn't look at that before I did the cuttings. So otherwise then, we finally reached the top of the pergola with this. You can see that one, when he flicks himself round, will actually wrap over himself to the right, so that'd be quite good. How much of that's going to survive the winter, I do not know. And this is my next thing, is to run my oversoil heating out. So the 2 that I'm particularly going to make sure I definitely do is the Lonicera, just down at the bottom of that pole. Just make sure the main trunk or stem, and as much as I can of the bottom bit, has got some heat going to it. And the Cyathea Couperii over there, the big one, and the rest of it, I'm not too worried about it. We'll just see how that does, because I'm only willing to do the overwintering to a certain stage. So that Lonicera, I've done all I can do for it. Basically, I've put it in as early as I could in the year. It's had as much growth as it can get. It's got the best soil it can get, and I'm not willing to fleece it and do all this, that and this other with it every year, but I'm willing to run some heating pipes out that I can just turn on and off as a switch via my phone if needed. And then what that'll do as well is I can just that Strepsirrhizia, you can see there, we can just have a little experiment with that as well. So coming over to the last section, this is very messy and lush, if that's the word you want to call it. These Nephrolepuses are mad. Just look at that, look how good that looks. So yeah, if you can get hold of any of them, definitely worth getting hold. And I've got about, they take full sun, they seem like they're going to be evergreen. I'm only querying the hardiness of them, and I've got one over there in the right hand side next to the house. I've got one there which is close to the house. We've got this one over here which is a bit more exposed, and then I've got 2 in the plant pots down here. One there, and then one obviously on that fence post high up earlier. So I'm going to leave them all in, see what happens, and then we might get a bit of an inkling as to how hardy they are. You know, if only that one survives next to the house, then they're probably not particularly hardy, and I'll have to look around for some more ferns that will do the same job. So other than that, this thing in the middle is way too wild. But it will take full sun. It's deciduous, it's a Hypulpis punctata. So what the plan is with that is, when all that dies off, I'm going to dig it all up, split it into 2 pots, and then next year I'll put them up by the patio area up there somewhere, and just keep it in pots. It's a bit too wild to go in the ground. That gives me a nice little spot to put a bit of a specimen in there, maybe a nice flower of some sort. And then just in here, really, you can see the Dryopteris erythrosaurus coming into its own now with the big 2 bronze leaves at the top there. The idea of the Nephrolepis and that erythrosaurus is to look after the Cyathea australis in the middle here, which is really going some now. So hopefully that will survive, and that is supposed to be the hardiest of the Cyatheas. However, it's also supposed to be deciduous, so yeah, I'm hoping the Couperii aren't far off that, because they look so familiar, but they're actually evergreen. So yeah, that'll do nicely. Other than that, we've got the Aphenis right at the back right hand side, just in front of the lantern, which is doing well there. That's full sun, so that's another one that likes full sun. He may be swapping with the Atrata that I'm going to dig out though. So yeah, so really going forward, got the heating to go in, which I'll do because I've got half the pipes in there already. Finish off that trellising running around all the top of there, and then just all my last thing really at the moment is just work out the strut for this pergola, how I'm going to do it, get that in there, get the bit jammed against that fence post that's leaning where the irrigation is running across to it, and go from there really. The only thing I may do is pull the Wollemi pine in a bit closer to the house, not because of the temperature, but I'm a bit worried about the rain. Might get too much rain, although that is really free draining compost, but I really don't want to kill that if I can help it. But you know, we may or we may not. So yeah, that's a good little run around. You can see how it's doing. It's, you know, it's, where are we, about 30-40% into the garden, so plenty more to go. And you know, I don't come from a gardening background, so the reason I've got so many ferns is because I didn't know what they all grew like and what they like. And what I found over this last year is, after having buying, I think there's about 40 odd different species of fern I've got, is I can see what likes what they grow to, when they flush, what sort of maintenance they need trimming wise, and this, that and the other. Now I can start building the garden off them a little bit, and also get a few specimen plants at some point as well. So yeah, anyway, hope everyone's having a good day. Bananas have been absolutely torn to shreds. We've got 40-mile-an-hour winds tomorrow, so how much of them remain we'll see. But yeah, hope everyone's having a good one, and I will see you on the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.